Hello everyone, and welcome to this lesson on the cardiorespiratory system. The cardiorespiratory system is like teamwork in the body because it's made out of two organ systems, the cardiovascular system and the respiratory system. So please come along and join us to learn about these two super important organ systems in the body. So before we start our lesson, let's go over some learning goals together. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to, number 1, identify systems in the human body. Number 2, describe how these systems work. Number 3, describe the main organs or body parts in the systems. Number 4, describe how the two systems work together. And number 5, identify some diseases or disorders in humans that affect the systems. So in the cardiorespiratory system, cardio refers to the heart, while respiratory refers to the respiratory system, which includes our lungs. Now, cardiorespiratory system, that's a big word. Let's try to break it down and sound it out together. So it goes cardiorespiratory. And this system helps keep us alive. It is mainly made up of the heart, lungs, and blood vessels, and they deliver oxygen to your body. Let's first start with the human respiratory system. Its main function is to bring oxygen into the body and get rid of carbon dioxide. And some of the main parts in it are going to be the nose, mouth, larynx, trachea, lungs, bronchus, bronchioles, and alveoli. Meet Breezy the lungs. Breezy's job is gas exchange, aka breathing. We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. And here's a little fun fact about Breezy the lungs. The left lung is slightly smaller than the right lung because our heart is also on the left side. So let's take a closer look at the lungs. So we know that oxygen comes down the trachea, and it will enter the lungs when the trachea splits into two, known as the left and right bronchus. And then the left and right bronchus are each going to split even further to make bronchioles. So a tip when thinking about the bronchus and bronchioles is to think of them as tree branches, where the branches get smaller and smaller. So at the very end of the branches, we're going to have what's called alveoli. And alveoli are going to be specifically where gas exchange occurs. And they look like little air sacs. And on them, there are small blood vessels called capillaries. So what happens is that oxygen from the alveoli will enter the bloodstream. And at the same time, carbon dioxide from the bloodstream will enter the alveoli and will eventually breathe it out. Okay guys, time for the first knowledge check question. So where does gas exchange happen? Is it the alveoli, the trachea, the bronchiole, or the bronchus? If you answered alveoli, then you are correct. Again, good job everyone.
It's now time for a mindful break. Let's take some deep breaths now that we know more about the system that helps us breathe, the respiratory system. Join along with our friend Jake as we take some deep breaths.
Let's talk about how carbon dioxide exits our body. When the blood comes back to the lungs, the carbon dioxide moves into the alveoli, which are the small air sacs in the lungs. Finally, we breathe out this carbon dioxide into the environment. Next, we're going to explore a muscle called the diaphragm and how it helps us to breathe. The arrow on the slide is pointing to the diaphragm. Based on what you've learned about the respiratory system so far, talk to a friend or reflect to yourself about the following question. What could be a possible function of the diaphragm in our bodies? Take a moment to think about this before moving on to the next slide. Alright, so now that you've taken a moment to think about it, let's explore what a diaphragm is. The diaphragm is a muscle under your lungs that helps you breathe. When you breathe in, the diaphragm moves down, which makes space for air to be sucked into your lungs. When you breathe out, the diaphragm moves up, pushing the air out of your lungs. A tip that I find useful is to think about the diaphragm as a vacuum in your chest. Okay guys, so we've made it to our knowledge check. What happens to carbon dioxide when it reaches the lungs? A, it moves out of the blood and is breathed out. B, it mixes with food. C, it stays in the blood. Or D, it turns into oxygen. Take a moment to choose your response before continuing to reveal the answer. Great job, everyone. So the correct answer was that carbon dioxide moves out of the blood and is breathed out. Congratulations if you chose this response, and if not, don't worry. This was a pretty tricky question.
Now it's time to switch gears and learn more about the human cardiovascular system. Its function is to transport blood, oxygen, and nutrients to the body. It has three main parts: the heart, blood vessels, and blood. Now it's time to meet our friend, Pumpy the heart. Pumpy's job is to deliver blood all over the body. The blood delivers nutrients and oxygen while also removing waste. And a fun fact that you might not know is that your heart is actually about the size of your fist. To help you remember, think of the heart as your body's engine. It acts like a pump, pushing blood through a network of blood vessels. Each heartbeat sends blood on a journey around your body. It has 4 chambers, 2 atria, also known as upper chambers, and 2 ventricles, also known as lower chambers. With your body as an engine, think of the blood vessels as part of the delivery team. So there are arteries, capillaries, and veins. Arteries carry oxygen-rich blood from the heart to the rest of the body. Capillaries are tiny vessels that connect arteries and veins, allowing oxygen and nutrients to pass into cells. And lastly, veins bring oxygen-poor blood back to the heart. Here's a tip. Remember the letter A for artery and away from the heart. This can help you remember the difference. Now another part of the delivery team would be the blood. There are different components to the blood. First, we have red blood cells, and they carry oxygen. We also have white blood cells, which fight germs, platelets, which help heal cuts by forming clots, and lastly, plasma, which is the liquid part of the blood that carries nutrients and waste. A helpful tip would be to think of the blood vessels as roads and the blood as cars. Now that you've learned more about the cardiovascular system, it's time to put your knowledge to the test. Here's another knowledge check. Which of the following is not a type of blood vessel? Is it arteries? Is it capillaries? Is it veins? Or is it valves? Make sure to answer the question before the timer runs out. The correct answer is valves. Valves are not a type of blood vessel. Great job, everyone!
Next, we're going to talk about the importance of exercise for cardiorespiratory health. Cardiorespiratory health is the health of your heart and lungs. When you exercise, your heart and lungs work harder to supply oxygen to your body. This helps them become stronger so they can work more efficiently. Exercise is important for your cardiorespiratory health for many reasons. It strengthens your heart, improves your lungs' function, and helps prevent diseases such as heart disease or high blood pressure. A helpful tip is that it is important to try to get at least 1 hour of physical activity per day.
Now that you know more about cardiorespiratory health, let's try out a fun exercise. Your pulse is how many times your heart beats per minute. To check your pulse, place the tips of your pointer finger and middle finger on your wrist. Count the number of beats you feel in a minute.
It's time for an active break. Let's do 10 jumping jacks with our friend Jake. Great job on those jumping jacks. Can you think of any other activities that get your heart pumping? In order to get our hearts pumping, our cardiovascular and our respiratory systems need to work together. Your blood is like a delivery truck being driven by your heart. It carries oxygen to your muscles so that they can keep moving. When you're doing jumping jacks, your heart works extra hard to send the oxygen where it's needed. Let's examine how oxygen moves throughout the body. When you breathe in, oxygen goes into your lungs. Your lungs have tiny air pockets where oxygen jumps into your blood. Next, your heart then pumps the oxygen-filled blood all over your body to give energy to your muscles and organs. Finally, after your body uses the oxygen, you breathe out carbon dioxide. It's time for a knowledge check. Oxygen-filled blood gives what to your organs? Carbon dioxide, nothing, energy, or food? If you guessed energy, you're correct. Good job.
So now that you know a little bit about the cardiorespiratory system, let's chat about some real-life examples. Problems with our different systems can occur very easily. This can just be from a common cold going around, unhealthy living habits, or from a condition that someone suffers from. Today we're going to show 2 real-life examples of these problems. The first condition that we're going to learn about is asthma. Asthma is a condition that affects your breathing. People with this condition have sensitive airways in their lungs that can get swollen or smaller when they breathe in things such as dust. This makes it harder to breathe and can cause coughing, wheezing, or shortness of breath. Luckily, this condition can be controlled with medicine. The next condition we're going to learn about is heart disease. Heart disease is a condition where the heart has trouble working properly. This happens when blood vessels around the heart get blocked or damaged and can make it hard for the heart to pump blood to the rest of the body. Some potential causes of heart disease include unhealthy eating, not exercising, and smoking. We can help prevent heart disease by promoting healthy eating and exercising.
Let's recap everything that we've learned. Pumpy, your heart, pumps the blood carrying the oxygen from Breezy to all parts of your body so that they can work properly. Breezy, your lungs, brings in oxygen when you breathe in and gets rid of carbon dioxide when you breathe out. The oxygen goes into your lungs and jumps into your blood. Together, Breezy and Pumpy make sure your body has the oxygen it needs and stays clean by getting rid of any waste. Thank you for listening. Next time you take a deep breath, remember that your body is a whole team working hard 24/7 just for you.